Hello, and this is Juhina Batul Asif. Today we're going to discuss about requirement engineering. Before this, we have discussed about software engineering models, waterfall, V model, and phase development. And we have discussed in detail what Agile is and how it is utilized in Scrum and Extreme programming. Requirement engineering is a crucial part of software engineering as it plays the foundation of any software development. Over the time, we have seen various software project failures because there are few factors that has been identified by Standish Group in 1994. The very first one is lack of user input. So the survey say that 13% of the softwares are failed because they are of lack of inputs. 12% of the software fails because of the requirements and specification are incomplete, and 12% of projects are failed because requirement and specification has been changing over the time. Although we have discussed in detail that Agile entertain all these types, but still when there are requirements are ambiguous or not clear, then such kind of issues might can raise. So here is a funny way to explain the what I'm trying to say you. In this video, we just say this is a software developer who's asking this person that what your software should do, and he just and just asking him that first of all, what are you trying to accomplish? And the person replies, I'm trying to make you design my software. And she just keeping her aggression in control. She just said that, I meant, what are you trying to accomplish with that software? And the person and the reply, I want to know what I want to accomplish until you tell me what the software can do. And she just panicked out and just said out, try to get this concept through your thick skull. This software can do whatever I design it to. And there is a kind of clash between both of them. And then the person said, you can design it to tell the requirement, um, to tell my requirement. So from this very example I have shared with you guys, you can just understand that there are times when the customer don't actually know what they really want, and he actually suppose that the developer or the team should tell them what their requirement should be. So in such case, and in any such cases where the requirements are really ambiguous, so it's become really hard for people to communicate and to start working and to start accomplish what really it wants to do. So here's an official definition of requirement and requirement engineering. Requirement are the basis of these all software products, and the requirement engineering is the process which enable us to systematically determine the requirements for our software product. So we should discriminate between these two real effects, need and want. So need is the basics that should be in our system, and that are the basic implementation of our system. Want is kind of an extra chunk, or we can say an extra topping for anything that may enhance our working. For instance, in our operating system, the basic working of operating system is to run the system efficiently, so or window it efficiently, but we use applications that help us help the operating system to work more efficiently. So here is the discrimination between need and want. Requirements are specification of what should be implemented. They are description of how the system should behave, or of a system property or attribute. They may be constant or anything that a development process need. So requirement can be a constant or requirement can be functionality. So what roles requirement places? Okay, so we'll start from this, 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 and this, and finally moving on to this, right? So software requirements are user documentation. So whatever user tells us why he wants this, that, and this thing, this are being listed down in a document, and we keep track of this thing, right? On basis of this thing, we develop our construction process. What process should we use? For example, we have utilized multiple processes, software processes to develop software. We can use a waterfall model, agile model, or any other problem model. On basis of that process, we will decide what how we projects start working. So start planning out, we will break down our project, which we would call work breakdown structures. And from here, we can track our team, where they are working, on what stage they are working, and what tasks are they being implemented. By chance, if there is certain changes in any requirement, we can just go back to our software requirement, and we can again document it and follow all the steps. And finally, we come to the final stage, that is testing. Testing could be of two types: acceptance test and the validation test. A validation and verification test, right? So acceptance test is like, we just check whether the system we have developed is according to the requirement or not. In validation and verification, we just verify whether the system we have implemented are according to the standards, or bugs free, or there is any issues or anything else. So we can make sure about this thing. This is the role of requirement. So here is a famous scientist called Fred Brooks, who is just sharing his thoughts about the software software requirements. So he just said that the since the software requirements are basic steps of any software product, so any change or any mishap in that may can affect the whole system, since it's a foundation for the system. There are furthermore some requirements of software, importance of software requirements, so you can just go through it. So let's say this is the conceptual part. Agreed. This is the since the foundation, so you cripple the system, right? No other part is more difficult than rectifying it later. Okay, so since the requirement is the foundation, it's being the very first step, so it's very important that we just make sure everything is clear at this stage, rather than we just moving on further and then this thinking that how things has been worked out. Okay, there's another person who has just highlighted the importance of software requirements. It's say, if we don't get the requirements right, it doesn't work. Doesn't matter how well the things goes. Okay, at the end, if the requirements are not clear, then everything is going to just collapse. From here, we're going to discuss four W's and one H about the requirements. These four W's and H is a like foundation for the requirements gathering. So for the very first thing is what determine what our system should do at various level and different types of requirements. The very first thing is business requirement. This is in a high level goal of an organization. Then we have our user requirements, and we will be discussing this in the further lectures. Just go through our brief overview of what business requirements are, user requirements, and system requirements, also on so forth. System requirements are functional and non-functional part of the system. Domain requirements are constraints imposed by environment or industry. Then we have second thing, that is why is the benefit of having the right software environment. It shows the importance of having right requirements, right? This software meets customer expectation or not, reduce risk, clear communication, foundation for design. So these are basically answer for why. What was various level and types of requirement, why importance, who Now we are moving for who are the basically determines who the stakeholders that are directly or indirectly involved in software requirement development. So it could be client, end user, business analysis, project manager, developers, and testers. Clients who request the system, for example, the person who just initiated the system, end users who will actually use the system, business analysts who gather and interpretate requirements. The person who just going to go through the requirements and analyze which requirement falls in which category. So this is kind of that thing. Project manager, project managers are person who is responsible for the project manager is a person who is responsible for the delivery of products, and he makes sure everything goes smooth. He interact with the team, he assign tasks, he checks what thing has been done and what is remaining, and also on so forth. Developer and testers, developers and testers are the persons who developer is the person who implement, and tester is the person who validates this. And the fourth one is requirement activities through the software development lifecycle. So in the fourth step, we just see the that the at what stage what kind of requirement has to be done, right? So this is how it is. And then finally we come to the point how. In these things, in first four things, we just determine what thing is, why, who, and when. And the last one is who, how. How determines the techniques that we use to implement these requirements. Ajay. So this is all about what, why, who, and when. So in word, we determine what types, at what level, why important, who's the stakeholder, when, the time the time and the activities should be done in the life cycle, and how it should be done. Here we have an example that we are going to use throughout our this phase, in which we understand how the system utilize the things and what thing represent what, right? So a brief introduction of the thing. It's a patient information system for mental health care. A patient information system to support mental health care is a medical information system that contains information about patients suffering from mental health problems and treatment that they have received. So there are, so technically इसमें दो important चीज़ें हैं जो mention है. Medical information of the system, patient's history, and then the treatment given to them, right? To make it easier for patient to attend, these clinics are not used to not just run in hospitals. ये सब actually में hospitals ही नहीं होते. They can also be held in medical practices and community centers. So this is our brief in description of our system. Okay. इस सिस्टम का मेजर पर्पस जो है वो ये है कि ये क्या करेगा, ये इंफॉर्मेशन जनरेट करेगा ताकि हेल्थ सर्विसेज को मैनेज किया जा सके, परफॉर्मेंस को एनालिसिस किया जाए, और उसके अलावा मेडिकल स्टाफ को टाइमली इंफॉर्मेशन प्रोवाइड की जा सके ताकि वो पेशेंट को चेक कर सके कि पेशेंट कितना बेहतर और कितने अच्छे से इसको टैकल कर रहे हैं. इस सिस्टम के अंदर मल्टीपल की फीचर्स हैं, और फीचर्स को हम क्या बता रहे हैं, बेसिकली हमारे क्या है, फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट्स हैं या नॉन फंक्शनल रिक्वायरमेंट है. इसको अदर वर्ड्स में हम क्या कह सकते हैं, सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट्स, क्योंकि सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट फर्दर फंक्शनल और नॉन फंक्शनल में डिवाइड हो रही है. इंडिविजुअल केयर के अंदर हमारे पास क्या कहेगा, क्लिनिकल रिकॉर्ड्स आ जाएगा पेशेंट का. उसको क्लिनिशियन जो है वो बेसिकली क्या कर सकेगा, बेसिकली कौन है, डॉक्टर है जो कि जिसका क्लिनिक है. सो जो डॉक्टर है वो पेशेंट का रिकॉर्ड ऐड कर सकता है, डिलीट कर सकता है, उसकी हिस्ट्री देख सकता है, एंड सो फॉर्थ. और उसके बाद जो सिस्टम है वो ये क्या करेगा, जितना भी इस पेशेंट का रिकॉर्ड ऐड है उन सब रिकॉर्ड को एनालिसिस करने के बाद उसकी एक समरी क्रिएट करेगा, और वो समरी जो है वो किसके साथ शेयर करें, डॉक्टर से. अब डॉक्टर को इस वजह से इतना लंबा प्रोसेस में जाना नहीं पड़ेगा, ठीक है. तो इस लंबे प्रोसेस से वो बच के वो एक्चुअली में जो काम करने के लिए है वो क्या है, प्रिस्क्राइब कर सकेगा ट्रीटमेंट और क्या मेडिकेशंस को रिक्वायर्ड हो. उसके बाद पेशेंट मॉनिटरिंग सिस्टम, सेकंड फीचर हमारे पास है पेशेंट मॉनिटरिंग सिस्टम. अब ये क्या है, ये रेगुलरली मॉनिटर करता है किसको, पेशेंट को, उसकी ट्रीटमेंट को। उसके अलावा अगर किसी पेशेंट ने अपना रेगुलर चेकअप नहीं करवाया तो उसको अलार्म या वार्निंग जनरेट होती है कि तुम्हारा चेकअप पेंडिंग है, यू शुड विजिट योर डॉक्टर, राइट। इसके बाद हमारे पास है एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव रिपोर्टिंग, जिसके अंदर हमारे पास क्या है, सिस्टम जो है वो जनरेट क्या करेगा, मंथली एंगेजमेंट मैनेजमेंट रिपोर्ट्स जो जनरेट करेगा, नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट्स कितने उसको विजिट कर चुके हैं, और नंबर ऑफ पेशेंट नहीं, जितने लोग हेल्थ केयर में एंटर हुए हैं और जो लोग जा चुके हैं, इस सब चीज़ों का रिकॉर्ड प्रोवाइड करेगा। रिक्वायरमेंट क्लासिफिकेशन बेसिकली दो पार्ट्स में डिवाइड होती है, यूजर रिक्वायरमेंट और सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट्स के अंदर। यूजर रिक्वायरमेंट जो है वो डिफाइन करती है कि हमारे जो यूजर है, यूजर कौन है, जिस बंदे ने वो सिस्टम को यूज करना है, राइट। द पर्सन इज गोइंग टू यूज दैट सिस्टम, इसको हम क्या कहते हैं, यूजर है। सो हम यूजर क्या है, जो कि यूजर के अंदर क्या है, यूजर को क्या चाहिए, ठीक है, उसको एक फ्रंट एंड पैनल चाहिए, उसको ऑपरेटेबिलिटी चाहिए, उसको एक्सेसिबिलिटी चाहिए, और उसके बाद हम देखते हैं कि ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो है वो कौन है। अब यूज़र एक ब्रॉड कैटेगरी है जो कि डिवाइड होती है, इसके अंदर हमारे कस्टमर हो जाइए, हमारा पेशेंट हो सकता है, हमारे पास क्लिनिकल ट्रीटमेंट जो दे रहे हैं वो लोग हो सकते हैं, और वो सारी चीज़ें, ठीक है। इसके अलावा एक सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट है। सिस्टम रिक्वायरमेंट जो है वो बेसिकली इंटरनल पार्ट है किसी भी रिक्वायरमेंट का। फॉर एग्जांपल जिसके अंदर हमारे पास आता है कि सिस्टम के अंदर जो चीज़ें यूज़र ने रिक्वायर की हैं उसको कैसे वो अचीव करेगा, ठीक है। सो here is an um, a description of what user requirement could be in healthcare patient information system. Okay, so I hope you have gone through this once, and we'll start discussing this. So the user requirement for the mental health care patient system is the system shall generate monthly management reports showing the cost of drugs prescribed by each clinic during the month. This is the user requirement, right? On the other hand, the system requirement is on the last working day of month, or a summary of drugs prescribed, their cost, and prescribing clinics shall be generated. So there is system shall generate thing, and here shall be generated. You can see the implementation part comes here and the output part comes here. So this is the major difference between user and system requirement. So a requirement should be mentioned differently for user and for this system requirement, since the user requirement is being used by a user who could be any person, as I told you earlier, the client, the patient, or anyone else. So it should be written in a simple way, or it should be documented in very simple ways that can be readable by client or customer easily. System requirements are used by the developer, project manager, and all those stuff, and it should be in a high level diagrams, or it should be defined in a way that is easier for developers to understand and to implement, right? Okay, so we're going to decide who are the will be the stakeholders. So here, and before this we had determine our requirements about what should our system should do, that is determine in our purpose, why the system should be implemented, उसमें हमने अपनी users की requirement बताई, और who is the answer, this is the answer of who will implement the system, who will use the system for a mental care system, right? So in this who में क्या क्या आ सकता है हमारे पास, पेशेंट आ सकते हैं, क्योंकि पेशेंट तो डायरेक्टली वो पर्सन है जिसके लिए वो सिस्टम बनाया जा रहा है, ठीक है। डॉक्टर्स जो हैं वो पेशेंट को ट्रीट दे रहे हैं, तो ऑब्वियसली डॉक्टर्स जो भी उसका ट्रीटमेंट देंगे वो रिकॉर्ड होगा, ठीक है। नर्सेज जो हैं दे आर पार्ट ऑफ दिस टीम, जो वो उनके साथ कोऑर्डिनेट करें। मेडिकल रिसेप्शनिस्ट जो है वो एक जो हर पेशेंट की अपॉइंटमेंट और सब चीज़ों को डील कर रहा है, उसको रिसेप्शनिस्ट जो है वो हैं। IT स्टाफ है जिसने ये पूरा सिस्टम डेवलप किया है और उसको जो अप्लाई करेगा। एथिक मैनेजर जो है वो कौन हो सकता है, वो पर्सन है जो कि हमें गाइडलाइन देता है कि हमारे पास मेडिकल सेंटर के अंदर क्या क्या एथिकल गाइडलाइंस पॉसिबली हो सकती हैं, एंड सो ऑन सो फॉर, दीज आर द बेसिक्स ऑफ दिस थिंग. So we are going to conclude our today's lecture here with a question for all of you. The question जो है वो ये है कि आप you are supposed to identify stakeholders in these two questions, and then you are supposed to write them in comments and do let me know. So I will check them all and let you know कि आप लोगों ने कितने वो सही लिखे हैं और कितने गलत लिखे हैं. ठीक है. So पहला है कि आपके पास a stock holding system for oil companies which keeps track of amount of petrol and gas of its sales outlet and automatically record new stock, right? A train protection system which will automatically bring a train to a halt if it exceeds speed limit for a track segment, or if it goes through a red signal when the tanks fall below a certain level. This is all for today. Thank you so much, and please do comment your answer in comment section. Thank you. Bye.